How much snow do you think we got last night? Well, I don't remember seeing that much snow. So I literally had a snow up to my waist. So I took Kayla, the littlest one, outside and put her in her little one-piece snow suit. We shoveled together. She used a beach shovel to shovel the driveway. I used a big shovel to shovel the driveway. I thought it was pretty excellent. Hi, my name is Justin Bailey, co-founder at Rose Rocket, and this is part 2 of 3 on how to hire a salesperson for your transportation and logistics business. And don't forget to like our channel. Please feel free to take notes, although we do have a downloadable one-pager for your convenience. So what we want to do today is really focus on, again, transportation, logistics businesses that are maybe sort of the small to medium size. And that's not to say that larger businesses wouldn't benefit from some of what I'm about to speak to, but this is really focus on the SMB segment. And I think there's been a really interesting shift that's occurred during the pandemic from, outside sales was really, really dominant in transportation. And what I've seen that's been kind of remarkable to me, because as much as I've been a proponent of scalability and being in software for now over 6 years, you get pretty used to sort of inside sales and inside sales motions, is really the shift for service businesses into more of an inside sales motion. So something I'd be looking for today would be really somebody who's had success doing that recently, or they've done a lot of that. And I think what's really beneficial to looking for someone with inside sales experience is it actually opens up a door to a whole bunch of salespeople that maybe pre-pandemic you wouldn't have considered. Because I think going out and to seeing people face to face, although I think it's a skill that's relatively easy to acquire by comparison to a lot, it still does take a little bit of practice and some training. And people that maybe you wouldn't necessarily want to have in front of customers or think would be really that great at it can oftentimes be excellent at inside sales. And it kind of leads me to my next point, is that when we're thinking about that shift, it's more than just can you execute using LinkedIn and sending emails. It's actually about somebody who's traditionally more maybe process driven than when you would think of a salesperson. But I think as we take a more value-based approach, we understand what our niche is. This is going back to video 1. And then driving that into identifying and finding the salesperson, it's really around finding somebody who is really much more maybe tactical and process driven, and bringing gregarious matters. But it's only to a certain point, because you're not relying fully on, can you get in the door? Can you charm people at the table and own the room? It's now this that stuff's out of the way, and you're really cutting down to the brass tacks of, can we deliver and execute on a promise? Because again, you've taken that component, and the relationship part is really now quite watered down by comparison. I think from a characteristic perspective, this person also has to be pretty entrepreneurial and pretty industrious. If this is a smaller business in particular, these people have to be able to generate their own leads probably to some degree. They're gonna have to close without process or in the absence of all of the questions answered. So having somebody who really can navigate their way through opaque landscapes and a business that's just trying to figure things out in terms of bringing on salespeople and hiring that sales team and kind of moving to the next stage in their business, they really have to have the durability, and you'll probably hear me use that word quite a bit because I think it's important when speaking of salespeople for SMB roles and service businesses, to see their way through those problems and to be entrepreneurial. Should you hire from within the industry? This is a question and a conversation that I've had quite a bit, and in fact, I've had an experience with both hiring from within industry and with outside of industry. So my general feelings on this are, industry folks can bring a lot of value. They're obviously coming somewhat prepackaged and somewhat ramped. What I would say though is I think I would be cautious around simply valuing the book of business, because what I have found is that book of business largely underperforms in that it's not what you expect it to be. So I think when thinking about hiring from industry, you almost want to take that book of business, discount it completely, and decide, does this person match the profile of what I've defined and on the type of person I want to hire. And I think that there's a temptation for first hires to go this direction in terms of it being the first hire to your business, to go this direction because it feels like I can just do it, set them on their way, and revenue will start to flow in. But again, remember, you may be taking somebody from an existing, say, brokerage, but if you've got a very, very tight niche and a very defined value prop, it actually could be selling quite a different product. And so you just, again, want to be careful at overestimating the contribution of that person and making sure you're setting them up for success the way you would if you hired from out of industry. Now, on the flip side, what I would say is when you go out of industry, I think you end up opening the talent pool up really, really wide. And if you feel like you have the time to commit to training somebody maybe on the nuances of transportation, you could take somebody from an industry, say like packaging, which really has the same type of buyer persona, same type of budgets, very, very similar sales motion to what transportation would be, and sort of sprinkle on transportation knowledge to them. Now, I think there's a risk of going too far afield. I think you could try to hire somebody, and again, assuming this is your first, second hire, from a large, say, a Best Buy or something. And I think that would be very difficult because I think you're now having to teach them about B2B sales, about these types of budgets. Just there's so many nuanced intricacies that people from B2B have picked up over the years that I think the ramp time in the learning process there would be very, very long, especially for your first or second hire when you don't have processes and you don't have all the tools that you would want. I think someone like that is really additive later down the road when you have a process, you have emotion, you have a machine, and you can add enthusiasm, you can add potential to those machines. But I think off the bat, you need somebody with some degree of experience, but I would say it doesn't have to be pure play transportation experience for you to have success with them. So where do we hire salespeople? Unfortunately, this is a very difficult answer because for me, really where the success largely has come from is through recruiters. This does speak to the investment we spoke about. So when we talk about, are we willing to make the investment to hire the salespeople, there are costs to it beyond just the wage that you pay them through that period of time. And one of those costs, and it's not insignificant, could be a recruiter. Recruiters are professionals at finding talent. And again, I've had quite good success with hiring from recruiters. What makes using recruiters effective, we'll go back to video one, is to be able to articulate to that recruiter, just like you would to a salesperson you're gonna hire, and just like you are to your dispatch and operations folks around, this is what we do better than anyone else in the world, and this is what we sell, and this is why our customers get extraordinary value from us. And when you tell a recruiter that, they can then go to market and start finding and sourcing people that identify and fit that message and that promise. So what if I don't have the budget for a recruiter? Well, there are different avenues that you can take and you can do it yourself. There are dozens of free job boards. You can upgrade on LinkedIn to a recruiter license, so you'll have to spend a bit of money, but it's far less than a recruiter would be to get a deeper look. You'll basically just have to do it yourself. So it really does come down to, do you have the time to do it? Certainly looking for referrals out there, just really being industrious, and it's really a sales effort on your part to try to find people and shake the tree, and hopefully, some good candidates come out. And so that's in the absence of the budget for the recruiter. The internet has made access to this stuff easier than ever, but I will warn, it's a very large undertaking, so the time commit is real. So you found a great candidate, and now you want to close that candidate. And I think we do have to consider that we are in the passenger seat, if you will, in terms of closing great salespeople. Great salespeople have opportunities to work at other places. So you largely want to be thinking about this as much as you're interviewing them, they're interviewing you too. So how can we take our small business and make it attractive to a salesperson to want to come work with us? And I think it's taking what we might think of weaknesses and turning them into strengths. So one thing that you can think about is, although you may be small and lack process, that can be looked at as we're a very entrepreneurial company. And so taking all these different parts of your business and really trying to make them selling points. But largely, when you're thinking of a salesperson, and this is, maybe we'll go if you're taking them from out of industry, for instance. In transportation, we have a very, I want to say unique position, but we can offer a lot of money and a lot of opportunity and a lot of upside to salespeople. And look, at the end of the day, if a salesperson's not motivated by money, you probably don't want to make that hire. We talked earlier about being industrious. You're industrious because you are hungry for that commission, you're hungry for that revenue. And so we want to ensure that they're obviously driven by money. And I think making a compensation package that is attractive and beyond attractive, quite frankly, hard to beat from the industry in which that they're coming from will give you a good leg up. Now, making sure you insulate that with things like, what is the work environment like? Is it work from home? What types of vacations do they think about? What type of work weeks do you offer? So for me, I like to think about the quality of life against the backdrop of the money. So let's talk about compensation structure. In this business, in particular in brokerage, we have really two key structures. You have a base salary plus a commission or a full commission. The idea around that investment we keep talking about definitely lends itself to this salary plus commission. Now, what we're gonna end up seeing here is more cash outlay for you as a business in the beginning while this salesperson is starting to ramp up. But the commission obviously will be less than it would be in a full commission environment. So over time, probably around that 1.5 to 2 year mark, the ROI for you actually will be much better. Now, you've got to get to that point and you've got to buy in with that salesperson for that period of time. On the flip side, a full commission structure will bring less risk to you in theory from a cash outlay, but it certainly heightens the risk of that salesperson leaving sooner, not being fully engaged. If you look historically at full commission sales reps, they can work for sure, but it is far and few between, I would say. And so it's a riskier setup overall. Not to say again that it doesn't work, but it's very difficult to manage someone on full commission because even at that place, they're a contractor to your business. So they're harder to sort of keep in line around the valuing, the messaging, the performance, the work, all the things that you really want to be able to kind of control and coach along the way. They can kind of be a bit disconnected from the business in that way as a contractor. So there are risks on both sides. I think, again, if you have the resources to make the investment, I would highly recommend the compensation plus commission. If you have a commission only, just know that you are entering a higher risk. And I don't know if it's a higher reward, to be honest. Maybe for the salesperson, it's definitely high risk, high reward. But for you, I think it's high risk. And then as that business starts to grow, if it does work out, it really does erode your margins long term. And so I think that the reward for you is call it medium reward, so high risk, medium reward, where I think on the other side, it's medium risk and high reward. So certainly a supporter of the salary, but I also know that that's not fiscally available to everybody right off the bat. So they both can work, but largely the salary will tend to, I think, yield better results and attract better candidates. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.